Hello students, let's start to draw our 1-point perspective drawing. You'll need a pencil and a ruler, or if you don't have a ruler you can just fold a piece of paper in half. You'll also want to make sure your paper you're drawing on is horizontal or wide. Here's that folded paper I'm just showing you can use if you don't have a ruler. Go ahead and draw a horizon line first step. It's just a line from the left side of the paper over to the right side. And look, you can even do it with your folded piece of paper, even if it's short. You can stop where the paper stops and then you can bring it over and finish your horizon line. Horizon lines are very important to landscape art, drawings, or paintings. Now, you're going to want to put a dot in the middle of that horizon line, close to the middle. Okay, yeah, that's about the middle. I just measured with my ruler. You can just eyeball it or estimate where you think the middle is, if you would like. Okay, so the next part is the crucial part, the most important part. I just showed you my little invisible lines. I'm gonna have like an A down there at the bottom where those two lines are gonna be the bottom of the A lines, and then the point on the top of the A is going to be there at the point. I'm going to use my ruler and drag my line down to meet that little mark I made on the bottom of my paper. And now I'm going to drag a line down again from the dot in the middle to the right hand side, the dash, and look at that. It's like an A. And it's okay if it doesn't meet in the middle, as long as it's smaller in the middle and then it looks like it's going to get bigger in the front. That is what we want. Can you start to see? That is what it's going to do. It looks like there's going to be a vanishing point, like our eye goes right back where the lines are pointed. Now I'm going to do a line down the middle. This can be the middle of the road. This can be a river. You can do the farm field sample that you also see. Now I'm going to draw another diagonal line from the corner to the dot. You can design your landscape however you want, but you need those diagonal lines in the front for any of your drawings. So you need all those diagonal lines in the front for your drawings. Now your drawings may vary, they may differ, they might look different. Like now I'm doing mountains in the background. You can do mountains if you'd like, or you could do hills or a giant sun for like a sunset. You could do a big rainbow. It's totally up to you how you design your landscape. Now I will say, the front of our landscape, in other words, the foreground, is all going to be cool colors. The background is going to all be warm colors. And you can switch that. If you want the front or the foreground to be all warm colors, that's fine, but the background will then need to be all cool colors. Okay, I'm erasing that middle line. I decided I don't really want to do a road. I'm going to do a train track, because you can see it looks like I made a tunnel in my mountain in the background just by making a curved line inside my mountain. And now I'm going to do a train track. You can do anything you want. You can do a train track, a road. You could just do rows of diagonal lines like the sample of the farm field where it just has lots of rows. But here I'm making a train track by doing a couple more of these diagonal lines. It's going to look like the track. So it looks like I have 1, 2, 3 diagonal lines there close to each other. If you're going to do a train track like me, you're going to need 3 diagonal lines, and then you're going to do these horizontal or lines from the left to the right inside your train track. Now as you get further to the back, and this applies to everything in your drawing, the further to the back you get, the smaller everything is. So the smaller the lines are going to be. You can see I'm making my train track lines smaller. They might be a little too small. I might actually make them, yeah, I got too small too fast. You see how it doesn't quite make sense there? They were too close together, but I was on the right track trying to make them small. So I'm going to go ahead and keep making the space between the lines smaller and smaller. Do you see? And we're going to do the same kind of thing when we do our subjects or objects in the foreground. Like I'm gonna draw some fun trees. And so whatever you draw in the foreground, which is the front, and there's a sun if you want to make it like a sunset. Your objects in the front are going to be small in the back and large in the front. I'll show you in just a second. I'm just working on my background, my sketch. I need that curved line to look a little nicer. Awesome. The most important element of this drawing are the steps we already did. So the steps with the diagonal lines coming to the middle of the paper. That is all you really need, besides having your shapes get smaller toward the back. So check it out. I'm going to do this really fun tree. I was inspired by Dr. Seuss's Lorax book. These are those fun trees in that book. Now the trees in the front, well, the ones that are closest to the front of the page or the bottom of the page, are going to be regular sized trees. And then I'm going to do another one, but look, it's going to be smaller. So like the line is smaller, and then I make my line even smaller the further back I go. That's what I keep on saying. Do you see how it's starting to really look like an actual landscape with a faraway distant space? So now I'm going to double up on that curved line I drew for my fun trees. Now you can do any kind of trees or any kind of objects. You could be doing flowers, you could be doing bunny rabbits, you could be doing, I don't know, lollipops, just anything on the side of your road or on your river or on your train track, but then it needs to get smaller in the back. So whatever it is you decide to draw in the foreground, make sure it's smaller in the back. Thank you. And it'll look realistic, as if there's a space you could go to, right? You could walk down that train track and you could go in that tunnel. It's realistic in that way. It's called one-point perspective. And there is a vanishing point, which is the point inside the tunnel. The very middle dot that we did in the middle of our page on the horizon line is a vanishing point. Okay, so I've erased the horizon line from going through my trees, and now I'm just kind of tidying up my sketch so that I like it. Make sure it looks nice before you say, okay, I'm done with my sketch. Erase what you need to erase, add what you want to add, and we're going to color next. Now, I mentioned before warm and cool colors. So, yes, you need to use either warm, which is what I have out here, red, orange, and yellow, and pink. You could even do yellow, orange. So those are warm colors like fire. And you can either do warm in the front or the back, just one, or you can do cool colors in the front or in the back. So I have chosen cool colors in the front, which means I'm going to put my warm colors aside, and I'm going to use my warm colors for the background next time. So this class, we're just doing the foreground, saving the background for next class. Now I'm going to use my ruler to trace back over these long straight lines. They're diagonal lines and they're straight, so I want to make sure I keep them straight and I keep them the same direction that I had them before, because remember, those are the most important lines. Those diagonal lines that lead you to the middle of the paper, those lines need to stay pretty nice. They need to stay straight, and they need to stay diagonal, and they need to stay headed toward the point in the middle of the paper. So that's why I use my ruler for those diagonal lines when I traced over it. Now I am using markers. You can use any materials that you have. And notice I use my ruler again, so that when I trace over these nice straight diagonal lines, they stay nice and straight and diagonal. So make sure you use your ruler again when you trace back over those lines with whatever you're coloring with. And do trace those lines. Trace them with a darker color so they really stand out. Now I don't need a ruler for this curvy line, do I? I'm going to make sure I keep using my cool colors, because you're only going to use cool in the front or the back. It depends on which one you chose. And then you'll use the opposite warm color on the opposite section of your page. I think you understand. I've said it many times. Just please remember to only use cool colors. Now, you'll see I'm using markers to do some outlining. I'm going to actually use crayons after these markers. And I recommend using 2 different types of materials if you have them, because when you use crayons or colored pencils, what's really nice is that you can create a lighter or darker color depending on how hard you press down with your pencils or crayons. If you think back, you might even remember when you press down really hard with your with your crayons, it gets darker. And the same goes for colored pencils. When you press down hard, it gets darker, and when you press down lightly, it gets lighter. So you'll be able to play around with crayons or colored pencils after you outline and with some markers. And it'll also give you a few more cool colors to work with. If you pull out some crayons or something, you'll have a few more cool colors inside the crayon box or inside the colored pencil box, so you can have some variety and have lots of different colors to use. Okay, so I even showed you can use a highlighter as long as it's a cool color like blue or purple or green. And I almost forgot to erase my pencil lines that did not get outlined. So sometimes when you outline, you miss a little bit of the pencil, which is totally fine, but it's nice to erase it because when you erase that pencil line, your drawing looks really pretty. And now I can go ahead and finish doing what I was doing with my highlighter. So I'm just coloring it in. You can color in your foreground, which is the front, however you want with the cool colors or with the warm colors. Like you can color it however, it doesn't have to be realistic. Are train tracks really purple? No, it's abstract. So it's not necessarily realistic because the colors are funny and the trees are funny and different, and that's fun. The only thing that looks realistic is that the landscape does look like it has depth, like there's a far away distance to it. So that is realistic, but the coloring does not have to be. So you can see I just pulled out some crayons, and look at that nice bright turquoise that I used on the bottom of my trees. And here's some purple I'm going to use on the top of my trees, and blue. Now you'll notice this video is a little faster because you guys are going to be coloring at your own pace, however you want, as long as you're using the cool or warm colors. And you can refer back to the slideshow if you're like, what are the warm colors again? What are the cool colors again? I have them listed in your slideshow. So please be sure to go back and take a look if you have any questions about warm or cool colors for the coloring. And mix it up. Use crayons and markers, or color pencils and crayons, or highlighters. Look around. What can you find that's a cool color to color with? Some of you may even be using paint, which is fine too, as long as it's the cool color. Okay, so I'm going to color in the train tracks with some more purple. And notice how I'm using less pressure, so when I color it's lighter when I did those purple tracks. And then in the background here, I'm coloring it in with the turquoise blue, but I'm not pressing down as hard, so that the turquoise blue that I'm coloring the grass with is lighter. So it's almost like a different color blue, isn't it? Because it's a light blue now, because I'm pressing down just a little bit. But when I did it in the trees, I pressed down really hard. And right now I'm adding some pattern and texture. And when I do those circles, the circle pattern, I'm pressing down good and hard so that you can see those lines once I go over them with the lighter pressure. So make sure that you play around with how hard you color. So practice coloring with hard pressure and then practice coloring with light pressure to get more shades of that color you're using. Because remember, you can only use the cool color. So you need to see how many different shades you can get out of those colors so that you can make things look different. So they're not all the same color. And I just did the bottom of the tree, like the little shadow, a dark blue. And look here, I'm using this, I think it's just like a blue, it's just like regular blue. And I'm coloring lightly so that it doesn't look exactly the same as the shadows of the tree. Do you see what I mean? It's a little lighter, like a lighter blue. Now I'm gonna do the inside of those, the train tracks. And I used some green, and now I'm gonna fill it in with some blue. Trying to be creative because I can only use the cool colors, so I have to see what I can do here. Making patterns. Now I'm adding these cool little wavy lines to look like water. And next week we'll color the background. I hope you had fun. Thank you for watching.